Hi YouTubers, this is another video from your friendly neighborhood reviewer, Evelyn. Today we're finally going to review the 6-part episode Netflix Korean series, The Sound of Magic. The series stars Ji Jang-wook as Ryul, also Cho So-eun as Yoon-ae, and Hwang In-yup as Na Il-dong. The story centers around Yoon-ae, who is a poor high school student in which her mother is dead and the father has abandoned both daughters. However, Yoon-ae is left to look after her younger sister by herself and also working part-time as a shop assistant. Throughout the series, we can see that Yoon-ae's life is extremely difficult. She's trying to make ends meet and still going to high school. Yoon-ae wants to grow up quick so she can be an adult and get control of her own life as she's still a minor. As the series progresses, we get introduced to the magician Ryul, as when Yoon-ae is trying to get the money, the piece of the dollar bill, well, paper money, that's flying away, and she encounters the magician and he says the immortal quote, "당신 마술을 믿습니까?" I heard that catchphrase so many times already. But however, Yoon-ae, in her better instinct, she runs away home because obviously some weird guy in a cape and a hat is coming up, talking to her randomly. But when she gets home, she finds an invitation card that she had no idea that got there. It's a pretty looking invitation card. And then throughout episode 2 to 3, we see the other students in Yoon-ae's class. Also, we get introduced to Na Il-dong, played by Hwang In-yup, whose character is a student with rich parents. But then we get like a second side story with Na Il-dong, that he's facing extreme pressures to be successful because his dad is a lawyer, his mom is very pushy, and of course that pressures make Na Il-dong very standoffish, very cold, especially when talking with other students. But he turns out to be seating partners with Yoon-ae, and then slowly we can see Na Il-dong forming a crush with Yoon-ae. There's another side of a subplot that's going on throughout the 6 episodes, is when we find out a female classmate from Yoon-ae's classroom has disappeared. Nobody knows where she is, and we can see that there's a missing banner. And this part of the plot will be very important for the last 2 episodes. So as we start to see Yoon-ae's life, we see that she's coming in hard times and she needs money for the rent, food, and everything. When she tries to ask her boss, the male shop, the boss of the shop, for a little bit of help, she tells the boss her story. But then we see, the series getting a little bit dark when the boss is like, yeah, here's the money, and then all of a sudden the boss is sexually assaulting Yoon-ae because they're almost trying to rape her. But then Ryul, the magician, he appears and he manages to save Yoon-ae, and we see in that moment he appears to have made the boss of the shop to have disappeared. At this point of the series, the big question is posed. Is the magician Ryul? Does he have real magic, or is he just some handsome, insane man? That's the question that's posed, leaving the viewers to see what's real and what's not. And then throughout the episodes, we see that Ryul, comes to the moments when Yoon-ae needs help when she's going through a crisis, because there's other things that happen within the series where Na Il-dong, in a really obtuse way, wants to get Yoon-ae's attention. That he knows that Yoon-ae is struggling financially, so he manipulates her a little bit, but he tells her, "I'll pay you if you come second to me in terms of rankings academics." So Na Il-dong is just basically telling Yoon-ae that he'll pay her to kind of fail a little bit in the tests. Yoon-ae has a pride. It's already humiliating enough that other people know that she's struggling financially, but she has no other choice but she accepts, but she doesn't feel good by accepting. However, there's a big thing within the series for people. I personally don't like musicals whatsoever. I would compare it if it's just like maybe one, but be prepared. Each episode is at least 3 to 4 kind of like dance numbers, musicals. People break out into song when they start having their feelings. So be prepared for that. The antagonist within the series is Big Hannah, this female within the classroom, and her friend, like Hannah, she likes to bully other people subtly. She likes to be manipulative, and she has quite a bitchy personality. She has her nose everywhere, and she never fails to bully Yoon-ae. We see that Beck Hannah seems to have developed an obsession with Ryul, that she's obsessed in trying to discover the myth about the magician. So she goes various times to the abandoned amusement park, and each time Rio's like warning the girl, back off, don't come here, and she's still trying to find out what's wrong about the magician. And the second one that's really prominent, that she goes back again with her friend, and she ends up sticking spy cameras, but Rio was there. And if I was Rio, but then again he's living in an abandoned amusement park, I would have called the police, but hey. And she ends up inadvertently leaving one spy cam within the box. The thing about this series that really bothers me is when they have a musical number, the viewer is left to interpret that Real is working some sort of magic, particularly the prominent ones where probably seen in the trailer where the girl's in the Ferris wheel, there's fireworks, and then she's on the merry-go-round, and then the horses are like flying away, and the viewers are left to think, oh, Real's making some sort of magic illusion when he says the magic words, Anara, Sumanara. And then we see as well Yunai acknowledging that's going on, and then when the musical act finishes, we left, there's nothing spoken or said about what happened. The only thing Yunai and then other people that get involved in this number say, like, what happened? Did that really happen? And Rio doesn't say anything. He doesn't acknowledge it at all. He does kind of like, you see in his eyes that he knows what's going on, but he's not revealing the full secret. So they carry on as normal. And then there's the more doubt whether Rio is really a magician. So ultimately, we find out the secrets were like, this whole series is a big metaphor about growing up and the pressures that teenagers face when they go to adulthood. And we see the pressure with Now Udung is kind of like a manifestation of that, and with having rich parents but with extreme pressure as well. Yunai is on the other end. She's a bit more freer, but then again, when it comes with freedom comes with responsibility. And then we see two opposing stories going on, both in extreme ends. So the intensity heats up when Baek Hana goes and reviews the footage from the spy cam that apparently it's not seen quite clearly that Rio is fighting against an assailant. Rio seems to pick up a knife, and we don't see whether Rio like stabs this assailant, but we only see that Rio is very obsessed and tells in the camera, yes, I'm a real magician, I'm a real magician, and it cuts out. And then Baek Hana has no problem sticking in Yunai's face and Now Yudung, and then there comes the thing about who's this magician? Is he okay? Is he insane? Is he a killer? So all those mysteries are left. And on the top of that, the police are still looking for the missing girl, and everything we can start seeing by episode 4 that everything's getting pointed towards Rio. And the other thing that we see with the magic is there's another scene where Rio inadvertently sends Yunai to meet her younger self. Yunai says, the only person I can depend on is myself, the only person I can trust in is myself, when she tells the magician that if you say you are, fast forward time in 10 years, maybe an adult already. Rio says he can't really do that, but he can do one better. He goes and in another musical number. So that's that bit of the number that we see, the musical number / magic, that Yunai gets a chance to talk to her younger self, and it's kind of like self-soothing. You can see like when you have talking to your inner child, literally. So she gets comforted in that notion that she will be okay somehow. But however, the big scandal we get is the secret meeting that gets exposed by Baek Hana of the deal with Yunai being paid to lose on the test gets exposed, but the mother gets instigated because, of course, now you're giving Yunai big chunks of money, his parents are going to notice. That's one thing I knew was going to happen, and that wasn't going to be a big surprise. But poor Yunai, she has nobody there to back her up. So what the rumor gets told her by the teacher, that they all assume that Yunai is blackmailing Now Idung, and of course it's ridiculous, the whole thing. And then that scandal is, but then the father returns out of the blue, and Yunai is a bit hesitant. She's happy to see her dad, but she's hesitant because the dad left them to have to deal with the loan sharks coming to their house. So we get a really sad scene where Yunai kind of confronts a little bit but the dad is desperate for money, but he sees that Yunai is like putting the money all in one envelope that she got from Now Yudung, because Yunai had a change of heart and saying, no, I'm not going to do this is just lying. So she goes and puts all the money in one envelope with her expectation that she returns the money, the scandal be gone, no harm, no foul. But the dad goes and steals the money, and then Yunai was with that realization that her dad is a bum, he's like a loser, a grade 8 loser that's running away, leaving his eldest daughter to take up the slavery slack. But however, she does a powerful phone call conversation that she tells her dad over the phone, like, why did you do all of these things? And then the dad, we can see the dad really apologizing, but nothing really gets resolved within the series. Like, yes, I'll talk about the last bit of the episode, but so moving on finally, that Yoon-ah-yi and Now Yoon have the footage of grained into their minds, but they still, Yoon-ah-yi she still believes in Ryul somehow deep in her conscious, saying that Ryul doesn't look like the person to do such a thing. So she has still that belief within him. She kind of compares Ryul as Santa Claus to her, since her childhood was never that great and she never had any expectations of receiving, magic and gifts and stuff. That Ryul the magician is that for her. The possibility of magic, the possibility to believe that despite how hard her situation is, that she can like stand up and try again. So the climax of the series we have here, the major stressor is Baek Hana. Now this is my gripe about this part of the episode. I can get real, maybe there's something maybe mentally wrong, we don't know, and I can get at the same time that maybe he really is magic, something happened to him. But when Baek Hana goes back to the place to confront Ryul in the way, because despite her bringing the footage to Yoon-ah-yi and Now Yoon, they kind of reject Baek Hana's attempts, whatever. So when she goes and confronts Ryul, she has a body cam and everything, and she's trying to antagonize him, and she tells Ryul that he has the footage. And Ryul goes crazy, and then he starts to strangle her. And then of course there's another part that Ryul has his pet parrot called Bella, in which we don't know what the parrot's magic is well, but Ryul sees Bella as his family, from what the audience can see. So there's a fight, and Baek Hana goes inadvertently slaps the cage where the parrot is, and the parrot falls. We think the parrot's dead, and that's when Ryul kind of snaps and strangles Baek Hana. You tell me, did the girl deserve to be choked? I was like, yeah, you say in your mind, but this doesn't bode well. Makes you see what's Ryul is capable of. So you tell me, was Ryul justified of strangling that girl, or should he have just scared her or called the police or do something? So Baek Hana runs out from the amusement park, and she tells Now Yoon, who was going to go back there and stuff. Despite Baek Hana showing the marks, Now Yoon doesn't say anything, and that leaves Baek Hana really frustrated. I can understand the frustration there. Like, she was assaulted. I grant that she was warranting it. She wanted to dig. And this is a lesson to people. Don't dig so much if you're not going to like the answer you're going to get. The body of the dead missing girl by episode 5 gets discovered floating up from the sea. We see evidence is planted of the knife with Ryul's blood on it, and the police are pointing all the directions to Ryul. However, Yoon-ah-yi goes back to the abandoned amusement park to warn Ryul about the police. Ryul's there looking after Bella that hasn't died, that looks to be quite ill. And this is the part where we see the more of a human side. Ji Jang-wook, I've only seen one series with him in it called the K2. That didn't end quite well. But in this, I wish there was more episodes to explain about the magician and his ties. But I don't know why they kept only 6. What such powerful acting from Ji Jang-wook, him crying and everything about his parrot, and then Yoon-ah-yi is saying like, this reminds her when she was a child, she was looking after a baby chicken and they died. She's kind of comparing that Ji Jang-wook, or Ryul, has the emotional capacity of a young child. So from episode 6, we start to see more magic appearing. The police arrest Ryul, and during questioning, Ryul disappears out of thin air with the police there like having cameras and everything. So we go park that bit of the series for a second. There's another part. By episode 6, we find out about Ryul's past. Now Yoon and Yoon-ah-yi, Yoon-ah-yi encounters this woman that she saw before, this pregnant woman visiting Ryul. She had no idea what she was, but she had like the woman's telephone number. They call her, and then they ask how does she know Ryul, and then the lady goes and says that the lady reveals that Ryul's real name is Ryul Min-hyuk, that they were both high school classmates together. And she talked about that Ryul Min-hyuk was a nice boy, always striving to do well for his parents. He wanted to do well. And then she counts in that story, by the second year, she noticed a great change within Ryul Min-hyuk. He became more obsessed of achieving things. We get implied that maybe Ryul Min-hyuk magician as a kid got a lot of pressure from his family because apparently his family was successful professors and stuff, until the pressure just got to him. And unfortunately, Ryo Min-hook, the magician, he tried to commit suicide by jumping, but he did, like, he jumped off, he walked off in mid-hallucination of this blue butterfly that you get seen within the series, and he's in the field of daffodils, and he's having that hallucination, we can say, and when in front of all the students within the rooftop of the building, he steps off, no hesitation or whatever. When she finishes recounting that story, she kind of says that Ryo Min-hook was crying out for help, so on, and then she said that she heard that as the magician was recovering in the mental hospital and he escaped, and then she managed to meet up with him again. That conversation is important for Na Eun-dong and Yoon-ae, realizing that the person that came into their lives, that shook up their lives, made them see that there's more than what the adults were expecting for them, that life is more than just what they see before them, was actually having a very traumatic past and even potentially dealing with an active mental illness. But that's the other part. The bit between where Ryo escapes from the hospital and this bit of whether he has real magic, that's never explained in the series, which is really sad. So by the end of episode 6, let me just put it this way. The police are there to arrest Ryo because they found him back at the abandoned amusement park, and all of a sudden they break out into song on episode 6 at the last bit where the police are there going to arrest them. And by the end of it, we kind of see that Ryo is passing on the hat to Yoon-ae and kind of like passing on his mission. Make everybody's days a bit more brighter with magic, happiness, so on. And the part of the series that lets everybody questioning, even the viewers, did Yoon-ae make Ryo disappear in the middle of the stage with a huge cape? Or did he fall through the trapped stage though that we saw in the previous episode? We'll never know. That's never revealed. And the epilogue essentially is that the magician was never found. The parrot ended up dying. Everybody went their separate ways, but Yoon-ae goes back to the amusement park to send messages to the magician through these letterbox, magic letterbox. And Na Eun-dong goes and follows similar to the magician. He quits high school because, okay, if you're not happy, you're not happy, as long as you're healthy, productive. Like, sometimes life is not just about following certain stages of what the adults expect. And Yoon-ae, things didn't get exactly better for her, or it didn't get worse. She manages to go to college. She's now a lot older. The actress itself, I don't know, she's 25 years old, and all of a sudden we can see with short hair and the school uniform, she looked considerably younger, now elder. You can see her age. She's still living in the same house. She says that her dad managed to find a job working in a farm, something like that, and he comes back home every weekend. However, they're still paying off the rent. And then we see that one of her part-time jobs is being a magician, because throughout the series she received magic classes from Ryo, and at the end she says the words again, Tanshin, Masu'ul Mitsumnika, and then it cuts off there. Okay, what did I think about the series? There was so much they didn't, it's like a very, the story was, the metaphor was there for the times, but the story plot, I think they focused too much on the musicals, didn't give enough time for enough story, enough deeper analysis. But I don't know, people like that. They like things open-ended. Sometimes, when we see trailers, we're like, why they're showing the whole movie in the trailer? And sometimes people love to be left off to the imagination. I was didn't meet everything I wanted from the series. The series had its, great moments. And Ji Jang-wook, he definitely won me over. Hopefully I'll get to see him in more K-dramas, better scripted. And this is the end of the video. As I leave you, all the viewers, thank you so much for watching, and also all the subscribers, thank you for subscribing. And lastly, I would really appreciate for any new viewers if they press the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it for all the K-drama lovers here. And also my channel has different content, so have a scroll through my channel. I'm just starting out, but like everybody, my whole childhood has been consisted of watching movies, not recently, last year or so, K-dramas. So why not? I'm putting my, thoughts into this. And as I leave you, stay safe,